The dirtiest secret of Silicon Valley that no one will tell you. What if I told you the entire tech industry is built on a lie? Not a small lie, a foundational one. A lie so big that if people actually understood it, the stock market would crater, venture capital would dry up overnight, and Elon Musk and Sam Altman would have a lot of explaining to do.
We are witnessing the dawn of true artificial intelligence, a network that learns and grows in real time.
In this video, I'm going to expose that lie and show you the physics that proves it and why the people in charge are desperately hoping you never find out. This is the first video in a series I'm calling The Theology of the Machine, an investigation into how Silicon Valley has become a new religion, complete with prophets, salvation myths, and billions of dollars in tithes from the faithful. By the end of this series, you'll understand why the promise of AGI and Mars colonies aren't just unlikely. They're the 21st century's version of selling indulgences, and you'll never look at a tech keynote the same way again. But before we can understand the religion, we need to understand the crisis that created it. Today's video answers one question. What happens when physics says no more? Okay, who am I? Now, I'm not a physicist. I'm a Hollywood cinematographer. For decades, I've worked at the highest levels of advertising and corporate propaganda. Yes, propaganda. That's what advertising is. My job has been to sell you dreams, to make the impossible look inevitable. So I know a sales pitch when I see one. And everything coming out of Silicon Valley right now, it might be the best sales pitch since the Babylonian captivity. But the exhaustive research behind this series, peer-reviewed papers, economic data, fundamental physics, reveals something the tech evangelists desperately need you not to understand. Let's start with the original sin, Moore's Law. The myth of Moore's Law. You've heard of Moore's Law. It's tech gospel. The idea that we get twice the computing power for half the price every 2 years. It's cited with the same reverence as gravity or the speed of light. Here's the problem. Moore's Law was never a law. Gordon Moore was a chemist, a business executive, not a theoretical physicist. In 1965, he made an observation about trends in semiconductor manufacturing. That's it, an observation about business trends that got confused, deliberately or not, with a fundamental law of nature. For decades, it held true, not because physics demanded it, but because the semiconductor industry made it happen. It was a self-fulfilling prophecy, an industrial roadmap, not a universal constant. But here's what nobody tells you at tech keynotes. We've hit the atomic floor. Silicon, the element, atomic number 14, forms a crystal latticed structure about 0.2 nanometers across. That's the size of a single silicon atom. Current state-of-the-art chips are operating at 3 nanometers, pushing toward 2. We're building structures that are only a few dozen atoms wide. Quite an incredible feat of engineering. The insurmountable problem is at this scale, classical physics breaks down. Annoyingly, electrons stop behaving like obedient particles. They start quantum tunneling, literally teleporting through barriers that should stop them. Your transistor doesn't switch on and off anymore. It leaks. It becomes unreliable. It generates heat that would melt the chip if we didn't shut large portions of it off. This isn't a temporary engineering problem. This is the universe saying this far and no further. The laws of physics have placed a ceiling on miniaturization. Okay, does that metaphor even work? Either way, what do you do when you can't make things smaller? You make them bigger, a lot bigger. And that's where the story gets really disturbing. But before we go there, if you're finding this as eye-opening as I think you are, hit that subscribe button and notification bell. This series is going to challenge everything you've been told about technology, AI, and the future. And if you've got thoughts on what I'm laying out here, drop them in the comments. I want to know if I'm the only one who's been seeing through this whole smoke and mirrors routine. All right, back to the physics. The great stagnation. Here's another piece of data that should terrify anyone paying attention. Researchers at Stanford and MIT have demonstrated something called the declining productivity of ideas. Despite massive increases in the number of scientists, despite exponentially more capital invested in R&D, the rate of breakthrough innovation is falling precipitously. In semiconductors alone, it takes 18 times as many researchers today to maintain the same rate of progress as in the early 1970s. Damn those physical laws. Think about what that means. We're not accelerating. We're not even maintaining. We're running harder and harder just to stay in place. Economist Tyler Cowen calls this the great stagnation. The thesis is simple. Humanity picked the low-hanging fruit of scientific discovery, electricity, internal combustion, antibiotics, nuclear physics in the 19th and 20th centuries. What's left is exponentially harder and more expensive to achieve. We decoded the genome, we split the atom, we connected the globe, and now we're making slightly better smartphones and arguing about whether AI can write a decent email. This is the hard truth the tech industry cannot admit. The age of fundamental breakthroughs may be over. What remains isn't a new frontier, it's a ceiling. And when you hit a ceiling, you don't break through it with optimism and venture capital. You hit it painfully with your face. The implications. Why does this matter? Because our entire civilization is built on the assumption that innovation will bail us out. Global warming, technology will fix it. Resource depletion, technology will fix it. Economic inequality, technology will create abundance for all. But what if it can't? What if the engine that powered the 20th century is sputtering? What if the promise that science will save us is functionally indistinguishable from God will provide or rain follows the plow? That's not rhetoric. That's the question this series is built to answer. Because here's what I've observed after decades of being a co-conspirator in how narratives get constructed and sold. When a society loses faith in its foundational promises, it doesn't just give up. It finds new prophets, new salvation myths, new reasons to believe. And that's exactly what's happening in Silicon Valley right now. The physics has hit its limits. The breakthroughs have slowed, and into that void have stepped the televangelists of the digital age. Men like Sam Altman, more acclaimed for his ability to raise money than for his engineering skills, and Elon Musk, selling salvation to the faithful via a rapturous transition to Mars. The great inversion. In the next video, we're going to talk about something called the inversion of compute. How the failure of Moore's law has led us to build data centers the size of cities, consuming more electricity than entire nations. We'll look at why the cloud is actually millions of tons of concrete, steel, and silicon sucking rivers dry and demanding dedicated power plants. We'll examine what happens when an industry that promised to make everything smaller and lighter starts requiring more physical resources than the Industrial Revolution. The digital future, it turns out, is very, very physical, and that's a problem no amount of optimism can solve. Hit subscribe so you don't miss it. If this video made you think differently about the tech industry, share it with someone who needs to hear it. The first step toward seeing through a con is understanding how the trick works. I'm Julian Whatley. Thanks for watching, and remember, the future isn't what they're selling you.